Hello and welcome to another episode of Stringer Things with Sinfonietta. I am Brittany Doe and I'm here alongside my co-host Sarah Wang. Today we will be talking about female composers. And joining us today is a very special guest, Brooklyn Wood.
Woo!
Yay! Welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about a bit about who you are. So, like, what instruments do you play? How long? Who do you study with? Etc.
My name is Brooklyn Wood. I am 17 years old. I'm going into grade 12 at Langley Fine Arts School. I study music at the Langley Community Music School, and I play the violin and the piano.
Nice. How long have
Is
you been playing violin?
I think it's like 11 and a half years now.
Wow.
And I've been composing for maybe 10.
Oh, so 11 and a half. So you're a pretty late starter, I guess. So
Yeah,
when did you
well,
start?
actually, I think maybe it's 12 years. I started when I was 5-ish.
Oh, wait, never mind. I started when I was 5. Wait, wait. And
Like,
then piano, how long have you been playing piano for?
I'm not taking lessons right now, but I think I will go back because it's really helpful for composition. I played for a couple years. I took lessons with Alan Stiles, and I
He
studied.
was my theory teacher.
Yes, he's absolutely fantastic. He was really great because he also promoted a lot of composition. And then I studied
Yeah.
composition with pianist and composer Marcel Bergman.
Wow. Nice. Um, who was your violin teacher again?
Oh, Louisa Nalepcu.
Mm,
wow.
nice.
And how did you get started with the violin? Because I feel like everyone has such a different story about how they started.
Well, I think I've got to say my parents put me into music, but they let me choose my instrument, and I just really liked the violin. And then with composition, I kind of just started doing that on my own when I was younger, just making up stuff and writing it down completely wrong. I was terrible at theory in my younger years. Like, I look back now and it's not right. But
Don't
Mine is
worry.
still not right.
Yeah. What were some of your early compositions like? Was it for
Oh, yeah.
piano, violin?
I usually always started with my violin because I didn't play piano when I was younger. I only started like a couple years ago and I did it for a tiny bit.
Mm.
But I would usually write something on my violin. So most of the melodies are kind of for strings. Like you wouldn't write them for piano, but one of my first pieces I wrote, I started taking lessons, I think, when I was 8, 9, maybe. And I wrote this piece for violin and piano, but I didn't know how to write the piano part because I didn't have any experience with it. So the piano part is interesting. Like it's like do 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 because I'm in my mind when I was little. I was like, okay, it's so hard writing multiple notes for the piano, but now I still write with my violin, and I kind of have a process with it.
Mhm.
Tell us
Let's
about
talk
the
a bit about
process.
that. Yeah, what is your process?
Well, actually, I usually come up with motifs and ideas like the melody, singing or humming. It's not always very good singing, but I usually come up with it in the weirdest places. Like people say that, but it's true. Like on the SkyTrain, I'll come up with something when the whirring's going, and you can't hear anything, and then as soon as the SkyTrain stops, I have to turn on my phone and sing into it and try to, cause I'll forget. So I have a lot of videos on my camera roll, which are just empty videos of me singing a melody, and then I'll come back and I'll listen to them. And I usually like going with my first idea because it's very natural. Like when I come up with a motif, if I like it, I won't necessarily tweak it too much. I'll actually just continue, or I'll take my violin and play it out and improvise a little bit. Sometimes I come up with like the harmony or the counter melody that will go with it. Other times I'll just continue on with that line and see where it goes. But yeah, usually my process is pretty natural. I like to see where it's going, not so much studying. Like the studying comes later. Sometimes people get confused with composition and think, oh, I have to sit down, I have to write a perfect harmony, I have to see, like, every bar has to go perfectly. I usually like to start and just play it out and then go back and see if what I did was chaos or, and then edit.
How would you describe your style? First of all, do you write atonal or tonal music, or is it kind of like a blur?
I think I usually write pretty tonal because I'm a sucker for romantic stuff.
Me too.
So some of my favorite composers are romantic, but I also really enjoy the modern type. And I wouldn't say too much the atonal, although I do like it when there's some angst thrown in and you're kind of confused and you're like, where is the melody? But I'd say it's pretty tonal.
Yeah. And I heard you had a recent premiere of your newest piece. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I got a really great opportunity to have my piece performed by Kessler Academy on Music on Main. And that was a really amazing time because I got a week to kind of work with the orchestra. I finished my piece, so I couldn't really tweak it around, but it was really fun to work with everyone I know so well, and the Microcosmos Quartet, they're just like such great mentors. So having them play my piece was such an honor. And it was also cool because I was writing for string orchestra, and I've written for string orchestra, but I haven't had it played where I get to work with them. So it was really cool. It's just an amazing opportunity.
And is it
Wow.
available anywhere for our listeners to
The
listen to?
recording is going to come out in September. They're just editing it. It's going to be a really, really nice video, and it's going to have excellent sound.
We'll link like the channel or something like that below so you can go check it out when it comes out.
Yeah,
Mhm.
try to share it everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so exciting though. Like being able to see your work being played by other people that you know and that you've worked with, like that's just so amazing.
Yeah, definitely. It was just incredible.
Yeah, it's the best feeling. So, what are some of your future plans? Like, do you plan on majoring in composition or
I'm trying
violin?
That's so funny that you asked because this whole week, I've just been researching universities and stuff, trying to figure out what I want to do. I I really enjoy performing as well, so I think whatever I do in the future, it will involve both performance and composition, whether this is I major in performance, minor in composition, or vice versa. But I like both. So I want to adventure into doing both.
Yeah, Brooklyn is an excellent violinist, if you didn't know.
Thank
Amazing.
you.
Concertmaster of the VYSO, is that correct?
Yes.
Wow, great.
Oh.
Let's talk about female composers. What do you think about women, non binary, trans composers, and why do you think there is such a stigma surrounding that topic?
Um, I think I can mostly speak from being a woman and a female composer that in history, females were really oppressed with, limited access to music education, the condescending review of females in general, and the overall male hierarchy in musical establishment are just some reasons for the underrepresentation of female composers in history. But I feel like this should not be happening still, as we have such a big and vast access to research, and like on the internet we can find so many different female composers now, and you can find their music. It shouldn't be too hard to not perform their music, but there's still such an oppression in this regard that women are still not being recognized in classical music and haven't been for very long. Though I believe that there is an increasing opportunity for us to succeed as composers.
So, do you think we as society are doing better, or should we be doing even better? Or
I
even
think we
more?
can always do a little better. I think
Yeah.
everyone can try and find a female composer and be like, oh, you know what, I'm going to research and I'm going to think, I'm going to bring this into a competition. That's the thing. Like, not just playing them in your own time, but actually trying to bring them into the system a little bit.
Speaking about, more women composers, how would you guys consider, just being composers even? Because classical music is still very present in our world, but it's not something that is usually as seen by youth, especially. So, what would you guys say about being musicians, being composers, in this time now?
Yeah, that's actually one of the biggest things that I'm thinking about right now, because if you think, okay, am I going to go into a profession in music right now, classical music, what's it going to be like, right? If you don't go into an orchestra, what can you do? And I think, if I don't know about you guys, but I feel that daunting presence of having to compete with like pop music, right? And there's a lot of transition I think that modern classical music can make in going with pop music. Not necessarily like as pop as you can think, but kind of mixing the two. I know there's lots of quartets, ensembles right now that are doing this. Like the Attacker Quartet, they just had a new album, and it's kind of electronic, but it's still played with the quartet, and they recorded it themselves. So I think that this kind of transition into electronic and engineering might be in the future of classical music. What do you guys
Mm,
think?
yeah,
Yeah.
no, for sure. And a lot of quartets do covers, or they do kind of a blend. They play both classical and pop music, or they do a mashup of the two. It's definitely changing a lot, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I personally love film music. I'm planning to do film music in the future, and I think that is a great way to kind of combine, popular music plus classical music in a media that everyone loves, who doesn't like watching movies.
Yeah.
That's
Film
true.
music is the best for
Yeah.
sure.
Thank you so much for watching part 1 of this episode of Stringer Things. Subscribe and stay tuned for part 2.